Welcome to Restore 2022. Today we're reading 2 Samuel chapters 13 and 14. Now you'll recall that in many of his psalms David praises God for the protection he's been given against numerous enemies. However, in chapters 11 and 12 we read of David's adultery with Bathsheba and then his successful plot to murder her husband. And this has so exasperated the grace of God that from now on he removes his protection. He tells David, "Now the sword will never depart from your house. I will raise evil against you out of your own house." And here, in chapters 13 and 14, we read how this curse began to be fulfilled. The 2 chapters have a large cast of people, and all of them, except the wise woman from Tekoa, are actual relatives of David, members of his own house. Absalom and Amnon are David's sons by different women. Tamar is his daughter. Jonadab and Joab are nephews of David, and Geshur, the man Absalom ran to for sanctuary, is David's father-in-law. It is the rape of Tamar by Amnon, her half-brother, that lights the fuse to all the wickedness that follows and causes the curse of God to unfold. The whole thing reads like a particularly nasty TV soap filled with lust and tragedy, fury and vengeance, and there's scheming, manipulation, murder and arson. And I confess there are things in these chapters that I just can't get my head around. For instance, surely it's suspicious that Amnon wants Tamar to feed him alone in his bedroom. And it's equally suspicious later on that Absalom wants Amnon to attend his party, even though the 2 of them haven't spoken for years. But David just doesn't see this. He blindly gives his permission. Of the other characters in these chapters, Amnon is despicable, Jonadab is devious, and Absalom is fueled by rage for vengeance. And only Joab seems loyal to the king. So when Absalom is exiled for murdering his brother, it's Joab who sees David's heart is breaking, and it's Joab who finds a way to give him a reason to rehabilitate his son. He arranges for a wise woman of Tekoa to visit the king and to ask for advice. He gives her a script using a well-known motif of disguise and legal fiction. Presenting herself as the victim of injustice, she makes David indignant on her behalf of something of which he himself is guilty. So in giving her his verdict, he condemns himself. And so through her story, he recognises his own attitude towards Absalom and, as a result, brings him back from exile. However, Absalom is vain and very good looking, and on his return to Jerusalem he begins to exploit this to cultivate his own celebrity with future conspiracy in mind. The whole chain of events began with the violent rape of Tamar, David's daughter. When Amnon attacked her, she remonstrated with him. She argued fiercely, even offered herself in marriage to him to prevent him becoming a social pariah. But he viciously humiliated her anyway, and then despised and rejected her. To her eternal credit, she revealed her humiliation publicly as an accusation against the rapist. The costly robe she wore had marked her as one of the virgins of David's household. It implied she was pure and not yet spoken for. And so by tearing her robe and putting ashes on her head, she publicly declared that her honour had been violated. It was her brother Absalom who gave her refuge. But the ultimate tragedy of Tamar is, in the words of the writer, that she lived a desolate woman in her brother's house.